So, Annunciation Latin class, Capitulum duodecimum, miles Romanus, pars secunda. We may actually rotate back to the pars una, since we've had a long pause here, but we'll see. Anyway, Oratio initialis, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. All right, a couple of things. Facetiae, for which we get the word facetious, or jokes, or amusements. If you ever get an unwanted invitation, you now know how to properly decline an invitation. Invitatio, invitationem, invotationis, invotationi. Please tell me you got that. Anybody?
I did not get that.
All right, here's Dante. Beatrix, velisne mecum cenare. Do you wish to have dinner with me? So what is she saying? Invitatio, invotationem, etc. Quid nam facis? What are you doing? Declining the invitation.
Oh,
That's pretty much.
now I get it.
Going to be a tough crowd tonight. That's all I can say. All right. My other one. Okay, now sample greetings. We need to work on some of your sample greetings here. So I'll try and like quomodo te habes or habetus. How are you? Valesne, valetisne. Are you well? Quid agis literally means what are you doing? Quid agitis, what's up, plural, what's up? And then last, the quatuor virtutes cardinales, the four classic cardinal virtues. And you can go, it goes all really back to the Greek philosophers. It's really pre-Christian. You can see the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraphs 1805 to 1809. But fortitudo, justitia, temperantia, and prudentia. And so those are they're always in Latin anyway, portrayed as women, since those four words are feminine. So
It's going to be hard to remember. Fortitude, I think, is a manly thing. So
no,
but I guess women have to be strong too, especially during childbirth.
Yeah, no, fortitude is persevering under difficult circumstances, okay? Not giving up. So there's, I mean, I defy you to well, except maybe a dead body. Everybody needs fortitude.
True.
Oh, and then justitia, or justice, is returning or giving due to what you owe others. Temperance is moderation in sensual pleasures, food, drink, etc. Prudentia is prudence, which is right action. So they all seem to be in short supply lately. So, all right, miles Romanus. This chapter touches on the Roman soldier, miles, Roman, soldier, Romanus, Roman. I'm not going to go into the subject in great detail, because you could easily do a dozen classes on this subject, and that's not really what we're here for. We're learning Latin. However,
I meant to look up that video for you.
Yeah. Oh, please do. Yeah, that's right. But the Vulgate touches on things military, and it uses a lot of Latin military terms. And actually even in English it uses, well, or English military terms. So it's useful to define a number of things. The other thing to keep in mind is the Roman military evolved over the course of time, well, much like our military. You know, think about what the military was like, say, 150 years ago. The Romans were very quick to adopt or adjust their military techniques depending upon technology and circumstance. And that was a lot of the reason for for their largely successful campaigns, not all of them. So anyway, I thought I would mention some of the words here using the general terms. And like English, Latin uses root words for its own variation of words. So pace, we've already had, foot, okay? And pace can be the foot of a man or a beast, doesn't matter. Anything that looks roughly foot-like. So a foot soldier is a pedes, and the plural is pedatus. Sorry, peditus, sorry. Emphasis on the wrong syllable. Peditus, which is also a third declension noun, now that we've had third declension.
And this is where we get the English word pedicure.
Pedicure, yes.
Dietary, although that's probably
Dietary, although that actually may be more Greek, but you can see that pace, foot, pedes, dude on foot, which is usually, you know, an infantry. Arme peditum, or pedestrian. Yeah, good point, Alex. The infantry was typically armed with a short sword, a shield, and a spear, all three of which they optimized for fighting on foot. They also tended to be relatively lightweight. Let's face it, if you're a soldier and and battles lasted, you know, days. So the last thing you wanted to do was, or hours at the very least, last thing you wanted to do was be wielding a very, very heavy sword and a very, very heavy shield, because that'll just wear you down. So anyway, gladius is a sword, and it's a word used generically for any sword, gladius. And you'll see in the text, there's a gladius longior, meaning a long sword. But the foot soldier did not use that. He used a gladius, which was a couple feet long, maybe 2 feet. Usually, and it was useful for two things. One, for close-in combat, and two, it was relatively lightweight, so they tended not to tire as quickly as some of those with more cumbersome armaments. Scutum is an oblong shield, usually squarish or rectangularish. It's formed from boards and covered in leather. So it's actually relatively, even though it's large, it's relatively lightweight. And so this would be your typical scutum. However, the word can be also used generically for any shield. Oh, thank you, Teresa. Pilum literally means a pounder or pestle of a mortar. But in the context here, it's really a heavy javelin of the Roman infantry, which they hurled at the enemy at the beginning of a battle, and then took to their swords. And so I couldn't get a really great photo of it, but you can see that it is a long, continuous spear, handle for throwing. And so
Marius made an actually, it might have been Julius Caesar, but I think it was Marius, made an alteration to it so that with the joining part where the throwing part and the spear part joined was weak. And so if you threw it, it would hit somebody and it would break, and then they couldn't take it and throw it back at you.
Always important. So that's the arme petitum. But they also had, in this chapter, you'll find they had the eques or equitis. The we know that Cornelius has an equus horse, but then the mounted soldier or cavalry had their own set of armor, and what they had was they well, yeah, the gladiators were a special, yeah, gladiators had different weapons, and gladiatorial combat was a sport, not professional soldiering. And in fact, Spartacus, which we've all heard the story, probably inaccurately, but we've all heard the story of Spartacus. Spartacus was originally a professional soldier. And I forget how he fell into hard times, and he was basically became a slave and sold to a gladiatorial school where he underwent gladiatorial training. Spartacus's problem was that he invariably fell back on his military training and killed his opponent. Gladiators did not usually fight to the death. Gladiators were like, professional sports stars.
Yeah, from what I've read, it's the gladiator fights are closer to the WWE than they are like professional fighting.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, to a certain extent. Yeah. Now, if you fought poorly and your opponent had you on the ground, if you didn't give a very good show, then hey, you might meet your death in there. But gladiators were trained. They were very expensive athletes, and their owners were not happy when they got killed. And so anyway, Spartacus ended up as a slave. So, but yeah, they like different weapons depending upon, there were various styles, Thracian, etc. I don't know if we get into any gladiators later on. I haven't looked that far, but anyway, gladius longior, the long sword. That's what the cavalry had. Cavalry had was the long sword, whereas the regular gladius would have been covered or carried by the foot soldier.
You actually need a long sword because you're reaching for other people that are from
you're from
horseback. Yeah, you got to be able to swing to another horseback or towards the ground. So
a dagger ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Literally. This is sometimes called a spata or spatha. Spatha is really should. It's like we say Thomas, TH, not Thomas. So you should say spatha, which is a long, broad, two-edged flat sword. So the gladius longior and the spata were kin to one another. Now, one thing that was different was the clipeus, which is the round shield. Okay. This is there's the scutum, the big square shield. And the big square shield they used to form their turtle formation, where they had them covered top, sides, and around, kind of like an armored tank, roughly, on foot. But that would have been very impractical for the horseman. So he had a round shield called the clipeus. The English translation is buckler, and you will see that word at least in older English translations. I don't know about, whoops, I need a parentheses there. I don't know about the NAB. And then the hasta, which is a lance, pike, or javelin. Now notice they have a place there to hold it against. So this is like the classic knights of the Middle Ages going at each other with lances. You would not want to be in front of a charging flank of cavalry with their lances deployed. You know, unless you're in an
Michael?
Abrams M1 tank, then it might be okay.
Michael?
Yeah.
Did you say that the Sparta is as long as the Gladius Longior, or is it shorter?
No, it's okay. The Gladius Longior and the Sparta are the same thing,
They're one and the same. Okay.
or slightly different variation thereof. Again, you know, we're talking about several hundred years of Roman military history, and their weapons evolved just like ours did. But the if you look in the chapter 12, they will refer to the Gladius Longior, but usually what they called it was the Spada, which was a long, broad, flat, two-edged sword. Generally did not have much of a point on it. It was more used for slashing as the horsemen rode by.
Was the Sparta a type of Gladius Longior, or is it just another name for it?
I believe it was a type of it.
And the reasons the opponents of the Romans hated the regular gladius, the short one, is unlike how you see it portrayed in the movies where the Roman soldiers are waving it over their head and slashing down. That's not how you use them. You put the pommel at groin level and you shoved up in front of you.
Yeah.
So it was coming right at the belly, and which is a very
lower.
unnerving.
Yeah, it was yeah, and it was used for the gladius was used for stabbing. Okay. This one
Basically, it was an eviscerating weapon.
yeah, kind of like the samurai, you know, when they committed seppuku, you know. So all right, anyway, let's move on here. So, the Vulgata. Yeah, so you'll see Miles, Gladius, Scutum, Pilum, Clipeos, and Hasta used in the Vulgate. And so did a quick search. And if you look up, now is that Ezekiel or Ezra? I think that's Ezekiel. You'll find we got Equos horses, Equites horsemen, the Hostum at the Clipeum, and the Gladium. And so if you run through that, I put up the English. And I will turn thee about at circumanium te, et ponum frenum, and I will put a bit in thy jaws, maxilis tuis, and I will lead you, I will bring you forth, a ducam te, and all thy army, horses, or exercitum is army, horses, horsemen, all clothed with coats of mail. You remember the Lorica by St. Patrick? Well, that's where it gets
Yeah,
named.
yes.
Oh, Lorca, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, Loricis. Well, in this case, they're referring to coats of mail. And then, of course, the Hostum, which is the spears, which is what the horsemen, because we are talking about horsemen, and the Clipeum, which is the small shield, and the Gladium. Now, a Clipeum, Clipeum auripientium means it means a shield that is grabbed. So it's, for the moment, just think of it as a buckler. It's a small round shield worn on the arm, okay? As opposed, see, the Romans, okay, this would be worn on the arm. The arm would go through there. Whereas this shield would be worn on the arm, but it was typically used double armed. Whereas this thing, you just kind of slip your arm through and away you went. Yeah, so, we'll have to see the turtle formation if we have time. Thank you, Teresa. So anyway, those are all in there.
And equites also refers to the second class of
Yes.
members in the Senate. It was, but we would say they were the knights. But
Yes.
basically, it comes from the same roots as horsemen because you would own a public horse.
Yes. They were a class. Let's see. They were the upper,
First class was
lower,
senators.
lower class. Lower
Yeah,
class.
they were lower. They were right below the senators.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And definitely above the publicans. All right. Anyway, so
Mike, just
yes,
I think you mean plebeians because
plebeians.
the
Sorry.
publicans ran the pubs.
Yeah, sorry. Plebeians, publicans, whatever. They're all the same. No, go ahead. You're going to say something, Alex.
well, you were referring to the Bible, and I was curious, presumably in the Garden of Gethsemane, when the disciple of Christ cut off the ear of one of the military, that would have been the short sword.
I would have used the word gladius.
Gladius, meaning the short sword.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I mean,
gladius was the default word for a sword.
right.
The default
Reason-
sword was a short sword, but if we draw a Venn diagram, it could have been a longer sword. They may not have. Well, actually, I think yeah. It just says it just says sword, so you don't necessarily know whether it was a gladius. And it was the one that Peter had. So where did he probably got it from a Roman? I don't. It really doesn't. It's all right. It's not precise enough to know for sure whether it was a true Roman short sword or not. Let's put it that way. But I'm sure they just used the word gladius. Because as I said, whoops, did I say gladius? Oh, I didn't do gladius. Oh, gladius, yeah. It's the word also used generically for any sword. So, and we kind of do that in English too. We say he had a sword for being rather imprecise. Was a long sword, short sword, double-bladed sword, single-bladed sword? Was it like a katana? I mean, there's lots of different classes of swords. So if you just say sword, it's a bit generic. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, and then we're going to start some of the reading again, is the dativus possessivus. Can't speak today. Dativus possessivus. We've had that before, and we're going to have it again. Besides the genitive, the Latin also uses the dative plus esse to show possession, and it's only with esse. It's not with other verbs. So we could say Marcus unam sororum habet. Marcus has a sister. Or Marco una soror est, literally meaning for Marcus there is a sister. So it sounds a little weird in English, but I hope you can see how that sort of makes sense in English.
You would just translate it, Marcus has a sister.
Yeah, you wouldn't say it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if I were going to now, again, if you're going to translate something into English for somebody else, then I would use good English. So Marcus has a sister. But if you're just reading Latin, then just say Marco una soror est, and which literally is for Marcus there is a sister. I would leave it in Latin. Does that make any sense? What I'm trying to say here? Don't try to, when you're reading Latin, don't try to translate it mentally into English unless you absolutely have to.
Right.
Yeah, is what I'm trying to say. So when you see something like this, just run with it. And one sister is for Marcus, or a sister is for Marcus.
Reading it is one thing, writing it is another.
Writing it or translating it more specific.
Right, translating
is another. I've been on I'm on a number of Facebook groups, and There have been some truly atrocious translations proposed by neophytes trying to get that literal sense of Latin, which is good, but you wouldn't translate it that way, if you know what I mean. So I've had to correct them in a few places and make suggestions. So now, is there a difference between the genitive and the dative? The genitive with the to be verb or esse emphasizes the possessor. So liber Petri est would be, this is Peter's book and no one else's. I mean, you're really emphasizing, hey, this is Peter we're talking about here and his book. Dative of possession, on the other hand, used to be emphasizes the fact of possession. Est mihi liber, I have a book, among other things. If there is no to be, then you got to use a genitive. This only works with a to be. And it should be added that not all ancient authors were terribly consistent with this. Some will use the genitive in places that you would have expected dative, and so just be flexible in that. A language is a fluid thing, but there is a difference. Is est mihi liber indicates that I have a book. So, and it emphasizes the possession, the fact of the possession.
Well, you're putting an emphasis on the I.
Yeah, maybe I have to capitalize it there.
Oh, no, I'm just saying the way you were reading it, the emphasis is on the
maybe I
have.
should say I have a book.
Right.
There we go. That's better. Okay. Okay.
What if we went when it emphasized a certain book? I have the book. How would you?
Okay, Latin does not have the word the.
Right.
You may have noticed that.
That's why I asked the question.
But there are a whole class of words to emphasize a particular book. And I do not want to get into those because they have degrees of meaning that will take me easily a whole class to explain.
Okay, so just know they're out there.
And which English does not even begin to distinguish between, which is kind of an interesting. And I've actually, so we should get to it. I'll look it up in the vocabulary one of these days.
So Michael, just to make this clear, in the reading, of course, on Miles Romanus,
right,
they use a lot of the.
They use it all over the place.
Right, and so the way we should interpret that is the emphasis is on the possession and not on the possessor. Is that the point you're making?
Yes. Well, yes.
It's kind of a slight distinction. It seems like
it's emphasizing. Yeah, they're talking about the relationships between brother, sister, uncle, mother, and
right.
They are emphasizing the relationships and not the possessors of those relationships.
I guess that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, they're emphasizing that that Julia is a sister to Marcus and Quintus.
Right.
And they're not emphasizing really Julia or Quintus or Marcus. They're emphasizing that she is a sister to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing genealogy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I mentioned the dativus possessivus first is I could not resist when I saw this. Cur nobis manus sunt. Why do we have hands? Multe causae sunt. There are many reasons.
To pet a cat.
Catus foveatur, ut catus teniatur, ut catus diligatur, ut omnia nostra cato dentus. You've had most, yeah, you should be able, yeah, you've had most of those words in one form or another. And notice,
Mucho dinero.
yeah, and notice they're all nice passive voice verbs. Yeah. See? So yes, foveatur means to cherish, to love, feel affection for.
Mhm.
And teniatur is to hold, and diligatur is to love, not like amo, but to like, to love. And then ut omnia nostra, sorry, nostra. Ooh, I think that's a typo. Ut omnia nostra cato dentur, to give every all your possessions to the cat. Yeah, this is datur, okay, but they've made it in the subjunctive here. So yeah, well, we don't we'll get to the subjunctive anyway. So and the cat, by the way, is mentioned in the Vulgate. Let's see. Oh, I didn't translate this. Let's see. Upon their bodies and upon their heads, volant noctue are the flyers of the night, i.e., owls, bats, and swallows, and birds, and likewise cats. So it's a
Okay.
really pretty image that the book there. Look it up sometime. I should have included the English. So, but anyway, we've also had the third declension, and I think I'm going to jump over. Yeah, we've taken about an hour. Well, no, I'll mention it briefly. Then we'll jump over to the text. Oh, actually, we've had the third declension, and we get. Whoops! I thought we got the fourth. Do we get the fourth declension? Oh, yeah, we also get the fourth and fifth declensions here. So, sorry, it's third declension adjectives that are new. Excuse me. They look very, very similar to the nouns. For first and second declension, they're identical. For third declension, they're very close, but they are slightly different. The ablative for the nouns take e's, except for the I stem, whereas all the adjectives take i's. Not a huge difference. And I believe everything else is this. Oh, sorry. The adjectives for the plural are all ias. And whereas the other ones are a's for the neuters. And sorry, the neuters are ias, whereas the neuters in sorry, the I stem neuters are in A's, and then the male and or the masculine and feminine versions of non-I stems or and I stems are ES. I think I said that right. Stumbled over it enough. So they are close, but they're not quite the same. So there we go. Here's some nice tables for you. We've already had some of these. Acer is sharp or bitter, for which we get the word acrid, or keen in some cases. And then omnis we've had as well. So the comparative, we also get the comparative. Comparative.
Hey, Michael, just
Yeah.
quickly, the auteur, is that where we get acid from as well, or is that separate?
That's separate.
Okay.
Now we get acid from ACIDUS. There we go. I don't know if you can see that terribly well. That is acidus, sour, tart, or acid. Now, acer is related back to it, but we actually get acid from acid. Make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Here, let me see here. I think I can put this. Let's see here. I'll put this in the. Where's everyone? There we go. There. Maybe you can read that better. I don't. There is a way to make this text bigger, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. Every once in a while I stumble on it. So let's see what else. Oh, the comparative. Yes. So we have in English, we have the comparative as well, meaning more of the form of the adjective. So fast, faster, slow, slower, sleepy, sleepier, etc. Most English adjectives follow this ER-EST pattern. There are some that are irregular, of course. Good, better, much more, bad, worse. So likewise in Latin, there are some irregular ones. But we're going to see longus for long, longior for longer, longa, feminine, longior, and then longum and longius. So if we jump down here,
What is longest?
we haven't gotten the superlatives yet.
I'll quit trying to jump ahead.
Right. We'll get the superlatives. Yeah, we'll get them later. But anyway, these are paucus, short, or sorry, a few, little, paucior, littler. Pauca is feminine, paucior. The nice thing about it is both masculine and feminine are IOR. And long, longer, you know, we pick up the ER. So longus, longior, you know, kind of pick up a kind of, you know, IOR is not too far from OR. But the IUS is neuter. So we also have bonus, melior, bona, melior, bonum, melius. So they all decline like third declension nouns. So even though it's longus, longa, longum, and they would decline like a first and second declension noun, longior and longius would decline like third declensions. And so here I put down a couple examples. And aside from the nominative and vocative, the O becomes long in all cases. So longiorem, longiores, longiori, longiore, and then longiores, longiores, longiorum, longioribus, longioribus. So we'll pick those up and we'll see those in a minute.
Michael,
Yeah.
did you say that some do not decline as third declension?
No. What I meant was there are a few irregular ones.
Oh, okay.
Like we have good, better, best.
Right.
Well, bonus and melior. Okay. The melior is third declension, and the melior and the melius are all third declension. So no, all the comparatives
Decline.
like a third declension noun. What is irregular is going from the oh shoot, what's the non-comparative? There's a word for it. Well, plain. I can't think of what it is.
Right.
The plain word to the comparative word is, and then from the comparative to the superlative. So bonus is bonus melior optissimus. So good, bonus, melior, better, optissimus, the best. So bonus is irregular. There's a half a dozen irregular ones in there, which we'll see as we run into. But I don't want to do the superlatives yet. And there are, okay. So, the other one I want to comment on is the genitivus partitivus, the partitive genitive. What does that mean? Well, just simply indicates something is part of a larger whole. Okay. Provincia est pars imperii Romani ut membrum pars corporis est. The province is part of the Roman Empire like the member, i.e. an arm or a leg, is part of the body. So it's not really possessive. I mean, does the Roman Empire possess this province? Or, well, you could probably argue yes. But does the body possess an arm? We don't say it that way. We say the body has an arm. So all it really means is and it's the same thing as in English, by the way. We have the genitive, the partitive genitive in English. We use it all the time. So the genitive is not just possession per se, like John's book or something like that, but it's also means a part of. And so it shouldn't be too tricky to figure that out because it's essentially the same form as English. Thank goodness. So anyway, oh yeah, all right. Here's the declensions, first, second, third. We also now pick up the fourth and fifth. Let's see. Some of you have been in and out. Well, I guess for Alex. Well, no, Alex, this is new, but not new because we had this in the previous class. So
We learned a little before.
yeah. So let's see. Connor, I think this is sort of new, right?
I have read the up to the second part of the chapter.
Okay, so you've seen it in there.
I've seen fourth, yeah.
So I'm not going to belabor it. The fourth declension nouns are usually masculine. There are a few, like spiritus. We say Spiritus Sanctus. So the Holy Spirit is evidently a guy. Well, not really, but his the gender of the words we use are masculine.
Isn't manus feminine?
Pardon?
The word for hand, manus.
Manus, yes. Manus
That would-
is
That would be feminine, wouldn't it?
that would be a good feminine one. Yeah, should have thrown it in there. Domus, home, is feminine. There are only 6 neuters. Janus, which is knee. I think we've seen knee in the parts of the body in that chapter. Certainly, you will see Janus and its variations in the liturgy, such as genuflect, etc. Fifth declension nouns. They are all feminine, except for the oddball masculine noun dies, which is sometimes a masculine noun or a feminine noun. So I guess we have a trans noun here. Can be either way. In ecclesiastical Latin, you usually see it as feminine. So if you remember the dies irae, well, dies, day, irae, of wrath, well, that's feminine possessive. So anyway, there are no fourth or fifth declension adjectives. So they're either first, second, or third. So you don't have another set there. So they're pretty easy to handle. And let's see. Yeah, there's some example. Oh, here we are. Fourth declension nouns. Oh, there's my manus. Acus, needle, anus. And be careful how you say that one. An old woman. Domus, house. Idus, the ides, which we'll get to in a later chapter. Manus, hand. Norus is a daughter-in-law. Pecus is food, provisions. Porticus is like portico, colonnade, porch. Socrus is mother-in-law. Specus is cave. And tribus is tribe. And the only fourth declension neuter nouns, and there are only 6 in the entire declension. There's only 4 neuter nouns: cornu, genu, gelu, pecu, veru, and specus. You could memorize all of them. So anyway, all right, let's get to the actual text. Now, we can take a vote here. We can either go back to, let's see, this is Lexio Prima. Do we want to go review the first reading? We did actually get through the first section the first time, last time. But since it's been what, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, we can review that, or we can go straight to the second.
We've had so many people missing, and I know we missed last week and stuff. I wouldn't mind going back and doing it all over again.
Good. I'm glad you said that. And I did not bribe her, just for the rest of this. All right.
That'll help with the praenomens.
Yes.
and
Oh, yes.
cognomen.
Oh, I was going to do a section on Latin names. I forgot to. Only because that way I could keep it straight. So anyway, we have the Miles Romanus, the Gladius, the Pilum, the Scutum, the Hasta, which would be the Equites,
It's so hard to say hasta since we're used to saying hasta luego.
or Hasta la Vista.
Yeah, hasta la vista, but not hasta la vista.
Well, that's what I say anytime I throw a spear in martial arts.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, you're about to visit my spear. Or does that mean look out for the spear? I'm not sure which. Probably the latter. Anyway, so, all right, let's take the first paragraph here. Quintus et frater Marci, or sorry, Quintus est frater Marci. So again, see, they've used the genitive here. Julia soror eius est. Marcus et Quintus fratres Juliae sunt. Marcus patrum et matrum fratrum et sororum habet. Nomen patris est Julius, matris Emilia, Quintus est nomen fratris Julia sororis. So this is all pretty old. Should be pretty familiar because they're using the genitive there. So now, Marco una soror est. Now we see the dative of possession.
Yeah.
Juliae due fratres sunt. So 2 brothers are to Julia. Nomina fratrum sunt Marcus et Quintus, patri et matri una filia et duo filii sunt. So the daughter and the 2 sons have a mother and a father. Matri Emilia nomen est. Quod nomen est patri. Ea nomen est Lucius Julius Balbus. Viro Romano 3 nomina sunt. Lucius est praenomen, id est nomen primum. Balbus cognomen est. So let me stop there for a moment. Lucius Julius Balbus. You've probably heard of Julius Caesar. His full name was Gaius Julius Caesar. And the cognomen is a bit like the family name, okay? And the middle name, the praenomen is usually reserved for intimates or for close friends or for family members. So Gaius Julius Caesar, only his immediate family would refer to him as Gaius, okay?
But Gaius would be his praenomen.
Gaius would be his praenomen, yes.
If I remember, that means like forename or the first name.
First name, yeah, pre or front name. And that's why they say it est nomen primum. It is the first name. Okay. Balbus cognomen est is the would be
Surname.
the surname. Thank you. That was the word I was grasping for, surname. And most people would use the word Julius. Okay. We don't, in a sense, oh boy, I don't know if this will come across. In a sense, Lucius is like his nickname. So, you know, formally, I would be Michael Martin, and only the people that I knew well would call me Mike. So in some sense, Julius's nickname, it's not really a nickname. Like nicknames are short, generally, not always, shortened forms of your first name. That, of course, is not entirely true. My uncle's name was Alcott K. Finney, and his nickname was Buddy. So, you know.
But you said, Michael, that the praenomen is a more intimate name.
Yes.
So would Amelia address her husband as Lucius?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
But often not. It was formality was, it depends on when we're talking about, but for formality, even between husband and wife, was appreciated.
Yeah.
What about nickname? Like you would get if you had red hair, you might be called Rufus,
Yes.
or
I don't think that was so much as a nickname as that just became part of their regular name.
okay.
So anyway, where were we? Filiis nomina sunt Marcus Julius Balbus et Quintus Julius Balbus. So there's a good example of, you know, we've always referred to Marcus and Quintus by their, and that part of that is because they're children, less formal. Marcus et Quintus praenomen sunt filiorum, alia praenomina Latina sunt Aulus, Decimus, Gaius, Publius, Sextus, and Titus. So they were kind of short on praenomens in the Latin language. If I dig it up, I'll dig up an article and I'll include it maybe in the next set of charts or email.
That could get really confusing at social functions.
Oh, yes.
And a good example of that is in the Julian family,
Oh, heavens.
the first daughter would be called Julia. And if there was another daughter, she might also be called Julia. And if there was a third daughter, often that would be Julilla, which would be little Julia. Usually the males got individual names, praenomens, but the women would get family names as their praenomen.
Yeah. Yeah. So Emilia, that Emilia didn't make any sense. Emilia est unus frater. Emilia has a brother. Cui Emilius nomen est, praenomen Publius, cognomen Paulus. Publius Emilius Paulus would be his full name. Frater Emiliae est avunculus liberorum. Emilius autem procul a sorore sua ap est. Anybody want to take a stab at what that means?
Emilius, however, Emilius is away from his sister.
Yeah, far away. Procul.
Far away from his sister. This is one of those peculiar things where you have both
Yes.
procul and abest.
Yes.
And you're not repeating it, you just say it once.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting
because they both mean the same thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's is there a good English? I don't think there's really an English I don't think there's a good English analogy or similar construct where we double up on that. I'm trying to think of one. Well, anyway, itaque Christus est Emilia quae fratrum suum amat. So now we're beginning to
He loves her brother.
yeah, well, we're beginning to flush out the genealogy. Also, you will often see the names abbreviated in inscriptions. And so if you see an A, it's probably Aulus. C, interestingly enough, is Gaius. Figure that out. D is Decimus, Lucius, Marcus, Publius, Quintus, Sextus, and Titus. So you'll often see those in on inscriptions on monuments, whatever.
They would abbreviate Gaius with a C.
Yeah, don't ask me why. Well, actually, let's just look up Scribus just for the heck of it. Maybe Gaius.
Mike, I can tell you one thing that, do you remember?
Oh, I see. Caius,
remember-
Caius. There we
Yeah.
go.
Do you remember in the books, what's it called? The one by Henry Winterfield, the Detectives in Togas. They're, young
Yes.
adult
Yes.
books, young kid books, chapter books, we'd call them. One of them was called Caius, and it was spelled with a C.
Yep. That's right. I'd forgotten that an alternate form of Gaius is Caius. So,
So that's the reason why.
yep, I'd forgotten that. See, pays to look things up every once in a while. Let's see, where were we? Guys. Okay. Here we go. Marcus et Julia matrum suum Christum in hortum exire vident et patrum interrogant cur mater nostra Christus est. Julius mater vestra Christus est, quod Emilius procul ab ea ab est. Emilius avunculus vester est. Id est frater matris. Mater Christus est, quod fratrum suum videre non potest. Any questions on
I
any of
guess, Michael, I guess we get the word avuncular from avunculus.
I'd place a bet on it. And if you think about it, look at avunculus, take off the AV, and what do you have? Unculus, or uncle. So I'll bet we get, let me see here. I'll bet we get uncle. Of course, we may get it through a different language. I'm going to look it up just for the heck of it. Uncle. Yeah, okay. Middle English from Old French, uncle, from late Latin, unculus, which I've never seen before, alliteration of avunculus. So yes. Oh, by the way, that is the maternal uncle. I should have added that. They had different words for whether it was on the mother's side or the father's side. Let me drop this in. There we go. On the father's side, it was patruus. On the mother's side, it was avunculus.
Huh. How about that?
In there, which may be easier to read. Yeah, they typically distinguished whether the relation was through the father's line or the mother's line. We don't really have anything quite like that I know of in English.
In Russian, they have the patronymic.
Oh,
So someone's second name in Russian is after their father. So
yeah, didn't they? And they have something like that in Italy too, don't they? Is the second?
I just know that that's the case in Russian, that you're
Yeah.
the son of so and so, and so they take that patronymic.
Yeah.
That's the second name in Russian.
Julius, avunculus Vester est in Germania. Emilius miles est. In Germania multi sunt milites Romani. Julia. And if you listen to the recording, there's the guy who's doing it goes to falsetto rather badly. Let's see if I can do this here. Quides miles. Yeah, I'm not. I should get. Yeah,
Michael, how old is Yulia supposed to be?
Julia.
Yeah,
Oh,
that seems like a ridiculous question.
5 or 6. Well,
Oh, if she's 5 or 6, okay.
yeah. Well,
I thought she was
yeah.
old.
Depending upon where they lived, yes. That's probably. And keep in mind that this the story is to carry the grammar and the vocabulary. So
I understand. I
plays-
just thought sometimes we get ridiculous things that are
yeah,
said.
oh yeah. But
these
she's pretty little. She's Quintus or Marcus is the oldest and Quintus, and they got to be like what you'd call them middle school, kind of very early preteens, somewhere in there. And Julia's probably I don't know, 5, 6 maybe. Anyway,
Just suspend your logic and read the words.
what?
Suspend your logic and just read the words.
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Julius miles, shorty, est vir qui scutum et gladium et pilum fert. Ferro is fert portat, is to carry.
Wouldn't it be better translated as bear?
Bear would be perhaps.
We talk about bear arms.
Bear arms, yeah. If you look up, let's see, if you go to Scribus and you go, was it Pharaoh? Whoops, it would be nice if I looked up Latin and not English. Yeah, there it is. Let's see here. Okay. Wow. I'm looking for the English here. 4-5 Plautus, root. Okay. Carry.
There it is. On
Bear,
about the
produce.
line, you can see on the far
I mean,
left.
it's got a long list of yeah, here we go. To bear, carry, bring.
Well, when you're talking about arms, anyway.
Yeah. So, whoops, wrong there. Anyway. Yes, and they have it over there. Fert portat, fert ferunt. Where were we? Scutum gladium. Fert. Scutum et gladius et pilum sunt arma militis Romani. Miles est vir armatus. The soldier is an armed man, or a man who bears arms might be a better translation. Because if you think of an armed man and you think of some Hindu god with multiple arms or something. I don't know. Julia, I'm not going to do the falsetto, guys.
Oh, darn.
You're going to strain your vocal cords.
Yeah, I'm going to strain my vocal cords today. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I got a long session in the simulator tomorrow.
Maybe you should let Teresa do this.
I was going to say, let's let Teresa do the Julia part, okay?
My husband is singing the song of his people with great gusto right now.
I can hear him in the background. We can pretend those are marching armies. All right, Julia, quid agunt milites Romani in Germania? Again, agunt is that generic word for do, act.
What are they doing?
Yeah, so in this case, what are they doing in Germania?
Isn't that Germania? Or have I asked you
No,
that
no,
before?
this is soft. It's in front of an E, Germania. Okay, Gemma Celestis, not Gemma Celestis.
But in classical, would that be a hard G?
In classical, that would be a hard G.
All G's in classical are hard, I
Yeah,
believe.
or hard. Yeah. 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 And notice in English, we tend to borrow in some fashion the Latin pronunciation. We don't say Germany, we say Germany and Germania. Okay. So think about that. Germany, Germania. You can see where the
So
sound.
just to clarify, you're using the ecclesiastical
Oh,
pronunciation?
yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. If I were reading Caesar's Gallic Wars, I might switch over to classical, maybe. I don't know. And also, one thing you'll catch me on is depending upon the context of the word I originally learned it in, I will sometimes use the classical pronunciation. Because I studied both and read both kinds. So if I saw the word first classically, that's what tends to get stuck in my brain. So, but this is a soft G, Germania. Julius, milites nostri in Germania pugnant. Now that's interesting. That one I learned first in Caesar, pugnant. So you'll hear me say pugnant occasionally, but it's actually pugnant, the GN in there. So Julia, me quoque fratres pugnant. Well, yeah.
It's a hardcore little girl.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Pueri.
Maybe Julius doesn't know that they do bear with
Well, no, I'm sure he does. Yeah, I'm sure Julius, we don't know what sisters he may or may not have had. So, Julius pueri punius non armus pugnant. So, you, Punius, fight the boys. They do not fight with arms, with weapons. Milites pognant gladiis pilis et, well, no, et hostis. So soldiers fight with swords, spears, and lances. Yeah, we'll go with lances on that. That's probably the best translation for that. So what are we up to? Oh, 8:42. So any questions so far? I can press on with the next section. All right, I will do so. Let's see now. Where do I, just close that tab. There we go. And they put this very nice chapter this is new. They put it right there so I can immediately go to, oh, well, all right, I guess I timed out. All right.
You immediately go to register.
Yeah, oh, well. Okay. Oh, there, we're back. Okay, chapter content, Familia Lexio Secunda. Oh, there we are. Julia, quid agunt milites Romani in Germania? Julius, milites nostri in Germania pugnant. Oh, we already read that. Sorry. Wonder why that looks familiar. Marcus, num Emilius et hastum et pilum fert. So Marcus is asking, does Emilius carry a spear and a lance? Julius, Emilius pilum tantum fert. Is enim pedes est non eques. Eques est miles. Here, let me zoom that up. Where were we? Oh, there we go. Yeah, here we go. Eques est miles ex quo equo pugnant. Qui pedibus pugnant, pedes est. So again, pace, foot soldier, pedes, foot soldier. Oh, well, sorry, pace is foot, pedes, foot soldier. Equites hastas pedites pila ferunt. And the hostus, the lance, was quite a bit heavier than the spear. You do not want to throw a lance, okay? It won't go very far, whereas the spear did. Pilum, and this is where we get into the comparative, pilum, no, or not yet, pilum non tam longum est quam hosta. Neque gladius peditus tam longus est quam gladius equitus. Pilum Emilii sex pedes longum est. And the Romans did have the measure of a foot. They have in here 29.6 centimeters. I don't know if they were that precise back then. The foot was about the size of a normal person's foot, which certainly mine is not a foot long. So I don't know how they standardized that necessarily in ancient times. I'll have to look that up.
I
But
thought I heard somewhere one time that I think it was Caesar determined the length of a yard by holding his arm out from the tip of his thumb to his tip of his nose.
he may have. He may have. Let's see, what was it? Was it the rod? Yeah, unit of measurement. They lined up like, I don't know, 12 guys were coming out of church, put their feet together. That became the standard for the rod. I'm not up on that, to tell you the truth, the history
So
of that.
Michael?
Yeah.
So this is where they tell us that the sword for the foot soldier is not as long as the sword for the equestrian.
Yes. Yes. And yeah. And again, Emilius is carrying the pilum since he is a foot soldier. And it is apparently 6 feet long, which makes it pretty easy to throw. Marcus, quam longus est gladius eius, Julius, duos pedes longus est. Yeah, about 2 feet. Gladius was fairly short. Marcus, duo pedes tantum, cur tam brevus est gladius. And now Julius will tell us. Gladius, Julius, quod gladius brevus non tam gravis est quam gladius longus.
Mhm.
Gladius equitus, longior et gravior est quam peditus. Yeah, and for the simple fact that if you're on foot, you don't want to be carrying around a big honking thing. Whereas if you're on a horse, horse probably doesn't mind, up to a point.
A lot of good comparisons here.
Yeah, pedes, qui pedibus et multaque alia arma fert. The foot soldier who goes on foot carries many other arms. Gladium longum et gravum ferre non potest. The long sword is heavy, and he is not able to carry it, or cannot carry it. Cannot's a little strong, but certainly not as far. Itaque gladius eius brevus et levus est. Now we begin here. Brevior et levior quam is qui ab equite fertur. Shorter and lighter than what is carried by the horseman. Etiam gladii qui ad Germanis fertuntur. Longiores et graviores sunt quam Romanorum. So, however, the swords which are carried by the Germans are longer and heavier than the Romans. Ac pila eorum longior et gravior quam nostra sunt. So the Germans did not have short swords and nice short lightweight spears. They had much heavier ones. And qui sunt Germani? Julius, Germani sunt hominos barbari. Yeah, they're barbarians. Qui Germanium incolunt, who live in Germany. Germania est magna terra, non procul a Gallia, not far from Gaul or France. Gallia autem provincia Romana est, ut Hispania, Syria, Egyptus, provincia est pars imperii Romani, and there's the partitive genitive. Ut membrum pars corporis est. Oh, that's a familiar sentence. Where have I seen that before? Roma enim caput imperii est, provinciae membra est. Germania non est provincia Romana. Oh boy, they tried long and hard to make it one. Fluben Rhenus Germanium a Gallia provincia dividit. So really the Rhine was the division between Germany and France. Caesar crossed the Rhine, built a bridge, waved his swords at some of the Germans. I'm greatly simplifying this, and then left, and really blew the minds of the Germans because he had his soldiers cut down trees, build a pontoon bridge across the I guess it wasn't pontoon, build a bridge across the Rhine, and then crossed it and explored Germany, and then basically packed up, went back across and destroyed the bridge because he
Yeah, because they drove piles into the
piles. Yeah,
riverbed.
as I said, not pontoon, piles. Yeah, corrected myself. You're right. But which just blew the minds of the Germans. They'd never seen anything like that. So
their treatment, the Romans' treatments of the Germans led to the downfall of Rome because what happened was in different reigns of Caesars, what they did was they employed the Germans as foot soldiers to ward off others that were attacking the Roman Empire. And every time they did this, they promised land to the Germans. And every time they promised land to the Germans, they broke their promises. And that ultimately led to the downfall of Rome.
Also, those German barbarians who learned Roman military tactics.
Oh, sure.
Turned them against them.
But
they almost made it in. I'm trying to remember the emperor.
It was stupid.
Was it Marcus Aurelius? Do you remember, Jen? Trying to remember. They almost managed. One of the Roman emperors managed to convince the Germans to join the Roman Empire, and he died. I think he was actually poisoned, if I remember correctly. And his son, I believe it was, that took over, was a real dork, shall we say. So the Germans said, well, we aren't going to have any of this. And but Rome had a long history in Germany.
Yeah, that's
generally not go well.
Far in past the history that I've studied.
Oh yeah. No, this would have been the 4th century, 3rd century. I'd have to go back. Anyway, Flumen Rhenus Germania Gallia provincia dividit. Rhenus ac Danuvius flumina, quae Germaniam ab imperio Romano dividunt. Fines imperii nostri sunt, the ends of our empire. Germania est patria Germanorum, ut Roma nostra patria est. Any questions there?
The homeland?
Yeah, well, literally fatherland.
Otherland.
But homeland works. Yeah. I think if we go over here to Scribove and we type in patria, yeah, they're gonna say patrias, that figures. All right, that's the fatherly, paternal, we would say fatherland.
Yeah.
Which one's this? Is this the Oh, okay, this is actually the right form. Belonging to one's native home and fatherland would really be the
And to this day, Germans refer to their country as the
as the
fatherland.
fatherland. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And some will refer to it as the motherland.
I was just about to comment. I know Russia refers to motherland, and I think in America, don't we also refer to motherland?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see if there is a motherland. No, let's see, is that 2 words? Oh dear. Well, let's do it this way. Motherly, mother tongue. Let's see. Mater, parens, genitrix, procreator. I do not see a motherland in Latin. So it must come from a different source, I'm guessing. Don't know. But yes. And actually we refer to heaven as our fatherland, patria. Trying to remember the hymn. Oh, I should know it. Isn't it in the Salutaris Hostia, Queceli Pandus Hostium, Bella Promut Hostilia, Une Tronoca Domine, sit sempiterna secula. Yeah, it's in the now I can't remember the term, the words just went out. Oh well. Let's see. Julia, cur milites Romani contra Germanos pugnant, sunt ne Germani homines improbi?
Wicked.
Yes, that's a very good question from a girl her age. Well, and actually, to be fair, the Romans had a real problem with the, for lack of a better term, barbarians, the German tribes. They invaded prior to this time, for that matter. They came across the Rhine and down into actually Italy more than once due to migration, population pressure, or whatever. Long history of that. Maybe I'll put together a timeline one of these days. I don't know. Anyway, cur milites Romani contra Germanos pugnant, sunt ne Germani homines improbi. Julius, milites nostri contra Germanos pugnant, quod Germani amici Romanorum, non sunt nec oh boy, let me try that again. Milites nostri contra Germanos pugnant, quod Germani amici Romanorum non sunt, nec Romanus parent. They are not friends, nor do they obey Rome. Germani hostes Romanorum sunt. Yes, the Germans and the Romans are enemies, and it goes way back. Let's see, is Ginny still on? Do you remember the first incursion? Wasn't that Marius and what's his name? Oh shoot. He
I
eventually
only
king.
remember the battle at Arausio,
Yeah,
but
Rauzia and yeah,
the
Romans lost
Romans
what?
lost like 100,000 men.
I thought it was
And
40,000 or
but
sorry,
they
80,000.
there had been small, incursions before that because the Germans had been wandering around. They weren't technically speaking all Germans. A lot of them came from like Denmark and
Switzerland and yeah.
northern peninsulas. They'd been rained out basically.
Yeah. And I'm trying to, let's see. I'm trying to remember. That was actually that was just before Marius, and was the other guy that took up an army with Marius. What was his name? He eventually became dictator and then resigned.
You mean Sulla?
Sulla, there we go. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so that would have been,
that's like 100 BC at
yeah,
Arausio.
100-ish BC, somewhere in there. So the Romans and the Germans have not been friends for a long time. So anyway, Germani exercitium nostrum opiniant. Exercitium is, let's see, do they have a good, well, army would be the way. Oh, Julia, quid est exercitus? Exercitus est manius numerus militum qui contra hostes ducitur. So now we know it's a large force. It's 9 o'clock. Okay, so any questions up to this point? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, good. Actually, let me check something here. I need to look over here. I need to go here. Okay, where is it? Oh, I went the wrong way. Sorry. St. Norbert. Oh, okay. Well, don't appear to be any first class feasts in the next month of June. So anyway, so let's tie that. Oops. Well, that's out of date. Sorry about that. June, what is that? 6th. So we will continue with chapter 12. We'll finish up the second part of the chapter, and then we'll go on to the third. And they had more than, they had the Sagitta, which is arrow, and Arcus. And in fact, Sagittarius, I don't know if you're familiar with the constellation. Sagittarius is the archer. Because he has a Sagitta and an Arcus, and then the Castra, and let's see, am I going to time out? Probably. And let's see here. I wanted to get to the next section. There we go. Because there will, oops, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Yeah, the Roman camp, the Valum, and more good stuff. But we'll have to save that for next time. So pars secunda et tertia. And next time we'll switch back to you guys reading and me asking questions. I just thought it would be easier on everybody if I read it this time. So do read it ahead of time. And any questions? Because with that, we will do our oratio finalis. Questions going once? Questions going twice? Sold. All right, mute everybody. Oratio finalis, in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Oh, before we go, I want you to remember Michael in your prayers. He is not doing well. He sent me a letter or an email last time that he would tie in but he was very ill and in the hospital. So his absence this time is probably not a good sign. So,
Do we know what the problem is?
okay, he's in his 80s, if I recall correctly,
Is he
and
really that old? I would have never guessed.
yeah, I think it's his 80s. Yeah, and he was a Marine, and he was in Camp Lejeune. He was also in Vietnam with his friend Agent Orange.
Mm.
And so a lot of his organs are just dying off, basically.
He mentioned the last time that we were both here that his kidneys were failing and they were having a hard time treating him. And he said that, yeah, quote, I'm in the early stages of dying.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
and unfortunately for email, there is no internet connection in heaven. So we won't get a notice like, hey, I can't make it to class, I'm dead. So,
Well, we'll all have to keep him in
so
our
we'll
prayer.
have to, yeah, keep him in our prayers. I don't know what his family situation is. I may send an email message in a week or two just to see, hey, how are you? The other thing I can actually do is search he's out in California in LA. I can also check the obituaries, see if his name appears. So,
Gosh, I had no idea.
yeah, no, he's not doing well. He is not doing well.
He's
So,
a wonderful
oh,
person.
I enjoyed him thoroughly, and as I told him, the Second Council of the Lateran solemnly declared that if you don't learn Latin in this life, you'll learn it in purgatory the next until you get it down. And I said, look at the good. I've given you a good head start. So.
He really worked hard at it.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And it was languages was not his forte. It's pretty clear. So, but but hey, that's the way almost every single person in the U.S. is. I mean, I'm sure I've told the joke before. What do you call somebody that knows 3 languages?
I know this joke, so I won't respond.
Yeah, trilingual. What do you call somebody who knows 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call somebody who knows only 1 language?
An American.
An American. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, really until the last, maybe 30 years or so, maybe a little more than that, you could travel from, Maine to San Diego and not hear anything but English. Certainly around here, it's not as true because we have a lot of immigrants from Mexico and South. So there was not that pressing need to learn other languages. Whereas in Europe, that has always been very different. My dad tells me growing up, they had a milkman. That also dates this story, doesn't it? When was the last time somebody was delivering milk to your milk chute there?
Yeah.
Who immigrated from Europe, and he knew, I'm trying what my dad said, I think it was 7 languages.
Wow.
And my dad said, like this guy had to be, like Albert Einstein. And the guy told him, he says, no, my route carried me through an area. I think it was I don't remember where he said, but there were several different languages he had to deal with. Now, some he spoke very well, others enough to be able to deliver milk.
Where are we talking about, Michael?
When?
No, where?
Oh, this would have been, I want to say it was in Eastern Europe someplace, maybe Austria, Germany, Hungary, Poland, something, or maybe Czech. Yeah, it might have been also Austria and Czechoslovakia, because Czech is one language, Slovakian is another, and then you have Austrian, which is more or less German.
Well, I was going to say that there are parts of Chicago where you could do just that.
Well, these days, yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying,
Oh, you mean with all the immigrants? No, this was
yeah,
not.
all the immigrants.
I'm sorry. No, this was East Liverpool, Ohio. No, this was not a, okay, I see which, I understand the question you're making. Yeah, no, he lived in East Liverpool, which, if you know where Pittsburgh is, go due west, and when you cross and a little bit south, no, due west, a little bit north maybe. East Liverpool is roughly on the border there on the Ohio River, right where the Pennsylvania um, uh, border with Ohio occurs, right on the Ohio River. So
They have the three rivers, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, in Pittsburgh itself, you have the oh boy,
Monongahela.
and the Allegheny, and they come together to form the Ohio, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's the Allegheny, Monongahela, and the.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Three Rivers Stadium. Yeah, I lived in Pittsburgh there for a while, so.
So, but you're saying in this section of Ohio,
Yeah, which is, yeah, and there were actually there were a lot of immigrants in that area. There were a lot of Irish that came over, and East Liverpool was at one time the pottery center of the world, quite literally. They made huge numbers of ceramics that went out all over the place. That is not the case today, largely because of cheap ceramics you can get from China and all sorts of other places. But
so in East Liverpool, you could learn different languages if you were moving.
maybe there were primarily English and Irish, though. There weren't many Italians.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, the milkman lived there. So, but he immigrated from Europe, and he's the one. It was his route when he was in Europe.
Oh, I see.
Where he had the various languages that he had to deal with. So, but yeah, theoretically, you probably could because it was an immigrant city. A lot of Irish, though.
Well, learning Latin opens a lot of doors to Romance languages.
I would agree totally. And English as well. So, anyway, we're done. So,
Thank you, Michael.
last minute
Night.
questions. Otherwise,